price of $3.60 per square foot is within the expected range for residential rough-in and trim work. Some electricians may charge $5 to $6 per square foot, but this is typically for more complex projects or in areas with higher labor costs. Several factors can affect rough-in and trim bid prices. These factors include, firstly, the complexity of the project. This includes the number and type of electrical devices like lighting, outlets, and switches, the wiring methods used, and any special features or requirements. Secondly, the size of the house. Larger houses require more materials and labor, which can increase the overall cost. Thirdly, the location. Labor costs and material prices can vary depending on the location of the project. Fourthly, the contractor's markup. Electricians typically include a markup on their labor and materials to cover overhead costs and profit. This markup can vary from contractor to contractor. Considering a breakdown of the bid, with recess cans, 18 multiplied by $75 each, resulting in $1,350, and basic electrical estimated at $2.25 per square foot, totaling $6,075, resulting in a total of $9,700. This bid appears to be reasonable based on the information provided. However, it's important to consider the following. Firstly, contingencies. Allow for unexpected expenses or changes in the scope of work. Secondly, labor availability. Ensure that the necessary labor resources are available to complete the project on time. Thirdly, competition. Check with other contractors in the area to see if the bid is competitive. Ultimately, the price charged should be based on individual costs, experience, and market conditions. Electrical plans usually include a one-line diagram, panel schedules, and a site plan. The one-line diagram is a simplified representation of the electrical system, showing the main components and their connections. The panel schedules show the circuit breakers in each panel and the loads they serve. The site plan shows the location of the electrical service, the main panel, and other major electrical equipment. Electrical codes are a set of rules and regulations that govern the installation of electrical systems. The most common electrical code in the United States is the National Electrical Code, or NEC. The NEC is updated every 3 years, and it is important to be familiar with the latest edition. Electrical permits are required for most electrical work. The permit ensures that the work is done in accordance with the electrical code. To obtain an electrical permit, you will need to submit a set of electrical plans to the local building department. The plans will be reviewed by an electrical inspector, who will then issue a permit if the plans are approved. Electrical inspections are required for all electrical work that is done under a permit. The inspection ensures that the work has been done in accordance with the electrical code. Electrical inspections are typically done by the local building department. The inspector will review the work and issue a certificate of occupancy if the work is approved. There are several types of electrical wiring that are commonly used in residential construction. These include, firstly, non-metallic sheet cable, also known as NM cable or Romex. Secondly, armored cable, also known as AC cable or BX. Thirdly, electrical metallic tubing, also known as EMT. NM cable is the most common type of wiring used in residential construction. It is relatively inexpensive and easy to install. AC cable is more expensive than NM cable, but it is more resistant to damage. EMT is the most expensive type of wiring, but it is also the most durable. It is typically used in commercial and industrial applications. There are several types of electrical boxes that are commonly used in residential construction. These include, firstly, outlet boxes. Secondly, switch boxes. Thirdly, junction boxes. Outlet boxes are used to mount outlets and receptacles. Switch boxes are used to mount switches. Junction boxes are used to connect two or more wires together. Outlets are used to provide power to electrical devices. There are two types of outlets. Firstly, standard outlets. Secondly, ground fault circuit interrupter, GFCI outlets. Standard outlets have two slots, one for the hot wire and one for the neutral wire. GFCI outlets have two slots and a reset button. GFCI outlets are designed to protect people from electrical shock. They are required in wet locations such as bathrooms and kitchens. Switches are used to control lights and other electrical devices. There are several types of switches, including firstly, single-pole switches. Secondly, three-way switches. Thirdly, four-way switches. Single-pole switches are used to control a light or device from one location. Three-way switches are used to control a light or device from two locations. Four-way switches are used to control a light or device from three or more locations. Lighting is an important part of any home. There are several types of lighting, including firstly, incandescent lighting. Secondly, fluorescent lighting. Thirdly, LED lighting. Incandescent lighting is the oldest type of lighting. It is relatively inexpensive, but it is not very energy efficient. Fluorescent lighting is more energy efficient than incandescent lighting. LED lighting is the most energy efficient type of lighting. Appliances are devices that use electricity to perform a task. There are many types of appliances, including firstly, refrigerators. Secondly, ovens. Thirdly, dishwashers. Refrigerators keep food cold. Ovens cook food. Dishwashers wash dishes. Electrical safety is important. Firstly, never work on electrical equipment while it is energized. Secondly, always use the correct tools for the job. Thirdly, always follow the electrical code. Grounding is an important safety feature in electrical systems. Grounding provides a path for electrical current to flow back to the source in the event of a fault. This helps to protect people from electrical shock. There are two types of grounding. Firstly, equipment grounding. Secondly, system grounding. Equipment grounding connects the metal parts of electrical equipment to ground. This helps to protect people from electrical shock if the equipment becomes energized. System grounding connects the neutral wire of the electrical system to ground. This helps to stabilize the voltage of the electrical system and to provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. Bonding is the process of connecting two or more metal parts of an electrical system together. Bonding helps to ensure that all of the metal parts are at the same electrical potential. This helps to reduce the risk of electrical shock. Overcurrent protection is a safety feature that protects electrical circuits from damage caused by excessive current flow. Overcurrent protection devices include firstly, circuit breakers. Secondly, fuses. Circuit breakers are devices that automatically interrupt the flow of current in a circuit when the current exceeds a certain level. Fuses are devices that melt and interrupt the flow of current in a circuit when the current exceeds a certain level. Surge protection is a safety feature that protects electrical equipment from damage caused by voltage surges. Voltage surges are sudden increases in voltage that can damage electronic equipment. Surge protection devices include firstly, surge protectors. Secondly, surge suppressors. Surge protectors are devices that divert voltage surges away from electrical equipment. Surge suppressors are devices that absorb voltage surges and prevent them from reaching electrical equipment. Arc fault circuit interrupters of size are a type of circuit breaker that is designed to protect against fires caused by arcing faults. Arcing faults are dangerous electrical faults that can occur when electricity jumps between two conductors. Size detect arcing faults and interrupt the flow of current in the circuit, which helps to prevent fires. Electrical troubleshooting is the process of identifying and repairing problems in electrical systems. Electrical troubleshooting can be dangerous, so it is important to be careful and to follow all safety precautions. If you are not comfortable troubleshooting electrical problems yourself, you should call a qualified electrician. Electrical repairs should only be performed by qualified electricians. Electrical repairs can be dangerous, so it is important to be careful and to follow all safety precautions. If you are not a qualified electrician, you should not attempt to repair electrical equipment. The service panel, also known as the breaker box, is the main distribution point for electricity in a home. It receives power from the utility company and distributes it to the various circuits in the house. The service panel contains circuit breakers which protect the circuits from overcurrents. The size of the service panel is determined by the electrical load of the house. A larger house with more appliances will require a larger service panel. The service entrance is the point where electricity enters the house from the utility company. The service entrance typically consists of a meter, a disconnect switch, and a service panel. The meter measures the amount of electricity that is used by the house. The disconnect switch is used to shut off power to the house in the event of an emergency. The grounding electrode system is a system of interconnected electrodes that are buried in the ground. The grounding electrode system provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to protect people from electrical shock. The most common type of grounding electrode is a ground rod. A ground rod is a metal rod that is driven into the ground. The ground rod is connected to the service panel with a grounding conductor. A water pipe can also be used as a grounding electrode. If a water pipe is used as a grounding electrode, it must be made of metal and it must be in contact with the earth for at least 10 feet. A concrete encased electrode can also be used as a grounding electrode. A concrete encased electrode is a metal conductor that is encased in concrete. The concrete encased electrode must be in contact with the earth for at least 20 feet. Electrical codes require that all electrical work be done in a safe and workmanlike manner. Electrical codes also specify the types of materials that can be used for electrical work. It is important to be familiar with the electrical codes in your area before you begin any electrical work. Electrical inspections are required for most electrical work. The inspection ensures that the work has been done in accordance with the electrical codes. Electrical inspections are typically done by the local building department. If you are planning to do any electrical work yourself, it is important to get a permit from the local building department. The permit ensures that the work will be inspected by an electrical inspector. If you are not comfortable doing electrical work yourself, you should hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician will be familiar with the electrical codes and will be able to do the work safely and correctly. When choosing an electrician, it is important to get several bids. You should also check the electrician's references and make sure that they are licensed and insured. Electrical estimating is the process of determining the cost of an electrical project. Electrical estimating involves estimating the cost of materials, labor, and overhead. Electrical estimating can be a complex process, but it is important to get an accurate estimate before you begin any electrical work. Electrical project management is the process of planning, organizing, and controlling an electrical project. Electrical project management involves developing a project plan, managing the project budget, and tracking the project progress. Electrical project management can be a complex process, but it is important to have a good project manager to ensure that the project is completed on time and within budget. When dealing with aluminum wiring, special considerations need to be taken. Aluminum wiring was used in many homes built in the 1960s and 1970s. Aluminum wiring is more likely to corrode than copper wiring, and it can also overheat and cause fires. If you have aluminum wiring in your home, it is important to have it inspected by a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician can determine if the wiring is safe and can make recommendations for repairs or replacement. One option for dealing with aluminum wiring is to replace it with copper wiring. This is the most expensive option, but it is also the safest. Another option is to use coupling connectors. Coupling connectors are special connectors that are designed to be used with aluminum wiring. Coupling connectors create a tight, corrosion-resistant connection between the aluminum wiring and the copper wiring. A third option is to use pigtailing. Pigtailing involves connecting a short length of copper wire to the aluminum wiring with a special connector. The copper wire is then connected to the device. Ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, are an important safety device. GFCIs protect people from electrical shock by detecting ground faults. A ground fault occurs when electricity flows through an unintended path to ground. GFCIs are required in wet locations, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor areas. When a ground fault occurs, the GFCI will trip and shut off the power to the circuit. This helps to prevent electrical shock. Arc fault circuit interrupters of size are another important safety device. A size protects against fires caused by arcing faults. An arcing fault occurs when electricity jumps between two conductors. A size are designed to detect arcing faults and to shut off the power to the circuit before a fire can start. A size are required in many new homes. Electrical load calculations are used to determine the amount of electricity that a building will use. Electrical load calculations are used to determine the size of the service panel, the size of the conductors, and the size of the overcurrent protection devices. The electrical load calculations are based on the square footage of the building, the number of appliances, and the number of lighting fixtures. There are two main methods for calculating electrical loads. Firstly, the standard method. Secondly, the optional method. The standard method is the most common method for calculating electrical loads. The optional method is used for larger buildings or buildings with complex electrical systems. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage that occurs along a conductor. Voltage drop is caused by the resistance of the conductor. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction. The National Electrical Code, NEC, specifies the maximum allowable voltage drop for electrical circuits. The NEC recommends that the voltage drop not exceed 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. Branch circuits are the circuits that supply power to individual outlets or lighting fixtures. Feeders are the circuits that supply power to branch circuits. Conduit fill refers to the amount of space that is occupied by conductors inside a conduit. The NEC specifies the maximum allowable conduit fill for different types of conduits. The NEC specifies the maximum number of conductors that can be installed in a conduit based on the size of the conduit, the type of conductors, and the type of insulation. Electrical boxes must be properly sized to accommodate the conductors and devices that are installed in them. The NEC specifies the minimum size of electrical boxes based on the number of conductors, the size of the conductors, and the type of devices. Electrical boxes must also be properly supported. The NEC specifies the methods that can be used to support electrical boxes. Wiring methods refer to the way that conductors are installed. The NEC specifies the wiring methods that can be used for different types of applications. Some common wiring methods include firstly, non-metallic sheath cable, NM cable. Secondly, armored cable, AC cable. Thirdly, electrical metallic tubing, EMT. Non-metallic sheath cable is the most common type of wiring used in residential construction. Armored cable is more expensive than non-metallic sheath cable, but it is more resistant to damage. Electrical metallic tubing is the most expensive type of wiring, but it is also the most durable. It is typically used in commercial and industrial applications. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are used to protect electrical circuits from overloads and short circuits. The NEC specifies the size of the overcurrent protection devices that must be used for different types of circuits. The size of the overcurrent protection device is based on the ampacity of the conductors. The ampacity of a conductor is the maximum amount of current that the conductor can safely carry. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source. Bonding connects all of the metal parts of an electrical system together to ensure that they are at the same electrical potential. Surge protection is used to protect electrical equipment from damage caused by voltage surges. Voltage surges can be caused by lightning strikes, power outages, or other events. Surge protection devices divert the surge current away from the electrical equipment. Arc fault circuit interrupters of size are used to protect against fires caused by arcing faults. Arcing faults can occur when electricity jumps between two conductors. A size detects arcing faults and interrupt the flow of current before a fire can start. Electrical safety is paramount. Always turn off the power before working on electrical equipment. Use properly insulated tools. Never work in wet conditions. If you are not comfortable working on electrical equipment, hire a qualified electrician. The National Electrical Code, NEC, is a set of standards for the safe installation of electrical wiring and equipment in the United States. It is updated every 3 years. State and local governments often adopt the NEC's law, and it is widely used by electricians, inspectors, and other electrical professionals. The NEC covers a wide range of topics, including firstly, wiring methods, secondly, overcurrent protection, thirdly, grounding, fourthly, bonding, fifthly, surge protection, sixthly, arc fault circuit interrupters. It is essential for anyone working with electricity to be familiar with the NEC. The NEC is not a design manual, but it provides minimum safety requirements for electrical installations. The NEC is published by the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA. Continuing education is important for electricians and other electrical professionals. The electrical industry is constantly changing, and it is essential to stay up to date on the latest technologies and safety practices. There are many ways to obtain continuing education, including firstly, attending classes, secondly, reading trade publications, thirdly, attending conferences, fourthly, taking online courses. Professional organizations such as the Independent Electrical Contractors (IC) and the National Electrical Contractors Association (NECA) offer continuing education courses and other resources for electrical professionals. These organizations also advocate for the electrical industry and promote safe electrical practices. Electrical estimating software can help electricians to create accurate and professional-looking estimates. Electrical estimating software can automate many of the tasks involved in estimating, such as calculating material quantities and labor costs. There are many different electrical estimating software programs available, so it is important to choose one that meets your needs. Electrical project management software can help electricians to manage their projects more effectively. Electrical project management software can help with tasks such as scheduling, tracking costs, and managing resources. There are many different electrical project management software programs available, so it is important to choose one that meets your needs. The 200 amp service is the most common size of electrical service for residential homes. A 200 amp service can typically handle the electrical load of a modern home with central air conditioning, electric heating, and other major appliances. However, some larger homes or homes with very high electrical demands may require a larger service, such as a 300 amps or 400 amps service. Underground electrical service is becoming increasingly common in new residential developments. Underground electrical service is more aesthetically pleasing than overhead service, and it is also less susceptible to damage from storms. However, underground electrical service can be more expensive to install than overhead service. When planning an electrical installation, it is important to consider the location of the electrical service, the location of the service panel, and the location of the grounding electrode system. The electrical service should be located in a convenient and accessible location. The service panel should be located in a dry and well-ventilated area. The grounding electrode system should be located in an area that is in contact with the earth. When installing electrical wiring, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. It is also important to use the correct tools and materials. If you are not comfortable installing electrical wiring, hire a qualified electrician. When making electrical connections, it is important to make sure that the connections are tight and secure. Loose electrical connections can cause overheating and fires. Use the proper connectors for the type of wiring that you are using. When working with electricity, always be aware of the potential hazards. Electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. Always turn off the power before working on electrical equipment. Use properly insulated tools. Never work in wet conditions. If you are not comfortable working on electrical equipment, hire a qualified electrician. For recessed lighting, consider the type of recess cans being installed. Are they insulated ceiling rated, also known as IC rated? This is important for energy efficiency and safety, especially when the cans are installed near insulation. Also, the trim kits can vary in price. Some are basic, while others are decorative or have special features. The cost of the trim can significantly affect the overall price of the recessed lighting. When estimating the cost of basic electrical work at $2.25 per square foot, it's important to have a clear definition of what's included. Does it cover all the necessary outlets, switches, and wiring for a standard residential installation, or are there any exclusions? For example, some electricians might exclude the cost of running dedicated circuits for appliances or installing smart home features. Consider the local market conditions. Material prices can fluctuate significantly depending on the location and the availability of supplies. Labor costs can also vary depending on the local economy and the demand for electricians. Be sure to factor in these regional differences when preparing your bid. Labor rates can significantly impact the cost of the electrical work. Factors that affect labor rates include the experience and skill of the electrician, the complexity of the project, and the prevailing wages in the area. Also, consider if you need to pay helpers or apprentices to help with the project. Finally, the final price that is charged should accurately reflect the actual cost of materials, labor, overhead, and profit. Do not be afraid to charge a fair price for your services. An electrical contractor should aim to ensure that the business remains profitable and that they can continue to provide quality services to their customers. Before submitting a bid, it is recommended to review the plans and specifications carefully. This will help the estimator to identify any potential problems or issues that could affect the cost of the project. It will also help the estimator to ensure that the bid is complete and accurate. Also consider visiting the job site. This will allow you to get a better understanding of the project and to identify any potential challenges. For example, it may be difficult to access certain areas of the house, or there may be existing electrical wiring that needs to be removed. Consider the cost of permits and inspections. Electrical permits are typically required for most electrical work, and the cost of the permit can vary depending on the location and the scope of the work. Electrical inspections are also required to ensure that the work is done in accordance with the electrical code. Understand the payment schedule. Some contractors require a deposit upfront, while others will bill you as the project progresses. It is important to agree on a payment schedule before the work begins. Also, have a clear change order process. Changes to the scope of the work can occur during the project, and it is important to have a process in place for handling these changes. The change order should clearly state the scope of the change, the cost of the change, and the impact on the project schedule. Keep accurate records of all costs, including materials, labor, and overhead. This information will be helpful when preparing future bids. It is also important to track the time spent on each project. This information will help you to determine the profitability of the project. Finally, always be prepared to negotiate. The customer may try to negotiate the price of the project, and it is important to be prepared to negotiate while still maintaining profitability. Review the bid periodically. This will help to ensure that the bid is still accurate and that you are not losing money on the project.